speakers.
So good morning, everybody. And before we formally begin this session, I'm happy to share that this Sense and Sensibility session is supported with sign language interpretation. We have Saura and Sarah here from the Association of Sign Language Interpreters, who will be our interpreters for today morning session. For those who are joining us from Zoom desktop and auditorium, I request you to click on the interpretation globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen and select American Sign Language as the option. Do note that although the setting of Indian Sign Language is not available on Zoom, we would be using Indian Sign Language for conversation. You will see a pop-up box like I do, and with one of our interpreters hovering over the screen as you will view the session. Mobile viewers go to more and enable interpretation. And for those who will be viewing us on Facebook as a broadcast, sadly, this feature is not available. It's available only on Zoom app and not on live streams. So I'm going to get started with today morning session. And I'm going to really begin by thanking all of you for being here. There are many colleges that are broadcasting it in their respective auditoriums or seminar halls. We have, I think, over 40 colleges that have registered for broadcasting this, and a big thank you to all of you. I think together we can make a difference. I'm going to begin by sharing my screens. I'd like to let team to let me know once you see it. Yes. Will someone from the team just let me know that it's visible to everybody?
Yes, visible.
Yeah, thank you. So I'd like to begin by, saying that I'm extremely happy and delighted to be, as a trustee of Avas, to be hosting this first ever session on Project Udita. It's the launch of our Project Udita, and it's extremely exciting to have all of you on board for this. A little about Avas. It was initiated in 1980 by the lady you see on the screen on the right, Anita Reddy, who is a guide and a mentor for me in many ways. And it has been a phenomenal journey for Avas, as well as for me in the last 10 years as being over 10 years as being a trustee of Avas. I'd like to thank our partner, Emphasis F1 Foundation, who have been very generous, and this project is largely through the CSR support that has been extended by Emphasis F1 Foundation. Happy to let you know that Council of Architecture is a knowledge partner on this, and we're likely to have the president of the Council of Architecture be with us in the final closing session of our faculty development program. As you all know, this is really the first session of the faculty development program, which after this session will be a closed session for those who have registered for the FD. I'm happy to also let you know that this morning we got confirmation from the Indian Institute of Architects that they're partners. I'm yet to receive the letter, but they said we could go ahead and announce this. And I'm so glad that both the premier institutions that represent our community of architects in our country are with us on board on this project. I belong to Ethos Foundation as well as a trustee. And I'm happy that we've been able to come together on this project with Avas. Yes, we are not the experts. We need experts to make universal design and the idea of accessibility reach everybody. And I'm happy that we have collaborations with Bharati Vidyapeeth School of Architecture in Pune, the Department of Architecture from SPA Bhopal, and Vidya Sagar Center for Special Education in Chennai, who's also going to be the promoter there is going to be part of our initial SNS session, and she's going to lead it really. We have our advisors in Dr. Kavita Murukkar from Bharati Vidyapeeth, Dr. Gaurav Raheja from IIT Roorkee, likely to get IIT Roorkee also collaborate with us on this. I'm waiting to hear from Dr. Raheja on that. Poonam Natarajan, who's the speaker today, and Dr. Rachna Khare from SPA Bhopal. So this all started, as some of you know, that I undertook this crazy walk from Kolkata to Delhi. And all this started on day 51 and day 16 when I met two very significant persons on my walk. And I'd like to just play a video to start with from Harshvardhan.
Geeta, we're not able to hear the audio.
I thought so. I'll have to stop sharing and reshare again, I think, right, for this? Yes. Sorry about that. And I have to choose share. Share some, yeah, okay. जिस तरह से मैंने आपको देखा अभी सीढ़ी चढ़ते हुए बिना मतलब मुझे विश्वास ही नहीं हुआ कि आप एक्चुअली देख नहीं पाते हैं तो किस तरह से आपने वो स्किल डेवलप किया
मैम एक्चुअली क्या है मतलब जब ऐसा कोई व्यक्ति ब्लाइंड हो जाता है तो उसको मतलब अपने आप में कॉन्फिडेंस होना चाहिए विल पावर भी स्ट्रॉन्ग होना चाहिए तो उस चीज़ को समझते हुए मैंने अपने आप को स्ट्रॉन्ग किया कि समझा कि अब ज़िंदगी में कुछ करना है तो आगे बढ़ना पड़ेगा सबका सहारा ना लेके
तो आप क्या गिनते हैं कि कितने स्टेप्स हैं जब चल रहे हैं किस तरह से आपको अंदाज लगता है कि आप
आपको हमारे घर पे तो टोटल पूरे घर का अंदाज है अब कहीं जाते हैं तो फिर साथ में एक व्यक्ति चाहिए
तो घर के अंदर आपको मालूम है लेकिन बाहर कहीं जाते हैं तो आपको तभी So that really was a telling statement for me that, you know, in his house, he has made things convenient for him to be able to navigate with almost with no impediment. And when he stepped out is when our world was very difficult for him. And the other person I met was Gopika Anand, and she's former Miss Wheelchair India. And we talked about why Miss Wheelchair India as well. But I think even that achievement gave her a huge sense of confidence for her to move on to what she's doing. She's now the principal of Deep Shikha, which is an NGO in Ranchi, which is where I met her. And she's part of some government bodies on advocacy and policy making as well. And we are working on a project in Deep Shikha where we've got a fellow who's helping them redesign their premises to make it a model center. In the last few days, ever since Udita has kind of come about, I've been trying to imagine the world of Gopika and Harshvardhan and many others. We often call them challenged. And I started realizing that it's we and society at large that is really challenged with the lack of understanding and empathy. We often say we are equal, we are all equal, and then we create differences in everything that we create, whether it is spaces, whether it's systems, opportunities, education, the way we travel, there's inequity all around us. We create speed breakers where there are none. Is it really their disability that we need to discuss, or ours and societies that does not realize the power of inclusion? By including all, we actually include ourselves too. Maybe that understanding will make a difference. And these encounters, like I said, really revealed a complete lack of inclusivity in all that we do. And according to the Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act of 2016, universal design is defined as design of products, environments, programs, and services to be usable by all people to the greatest extent possible. And that is something that we as designers probably need to internalize as well. The population of persons with disabilities as per the census 2011 is 26.8 million, which stands at about 2.21%. But when you add to that the elderly at 104 million, the women in the fertility age group at 155 million, children in the age group of 0 to 14 to 116 million, The total population of elderly children, I've not included the women in the fertility group here because that's variable, but just the elderly children and persons with disability in India is 193.4 million. So that's a 16.09%, which is really 1 in 5 people. So the total, if you design for that 16.09%, which is what we should all aim at doing, you actually are designing for the entire population. You're designing the total number of people who will benefit from a barrier-free environment is really the entire nation. So designing for all, to me, equals to design for lifespan, which again equals to design for all. Design for lifespan, for those who do not understand it, in a lifespan of a human being, you would have episodes or periods in your life where you are disabled to an extent. You are not able to use your faculties and your body completely because you've had an injury, you've fallen sick, it could be various reasons. You've been advised bed rest, it could be various reasons. And then, so during your own lifespan, you might be a child, you might be, you're going to be an older person, aged person. So when you design for lifespan, again, you're designing for all. And that's how the idea of Project Udita was born. Udita stands for Universal Design is the Answer. The name Udita also means a sunrise or an awakening, and we thought it was very apt. I'm going to just quickly play a video. So that's really an animation on our logo created by a very young, talented Preeti. So what is the problem statement that we really see today? It's not so much that laws don't exist or the know-how isn't there, but it's also the lack of general awareness on accessible and universal infrastructure. Colleges present here, while I know that most of you do talk about universal design as part of your studio projects, but really understanding what universal design is as a subject to be integrated into the curriculum hasn't really happened. I'm glad that the Council of Architecture has signed the MOU with the government, and it's likely to bring in a lot of change. Lack of empathy and sensitivity among the ACE fraternity, that is our fraternity, that reflects through our designs and solutions. Lack of empathy and sensitivity among common people. So we're looking to see how we can address this problem statement through various things that we are going to do through Project Udita. But the approach is generally looking at how we can sensitize and make people more aware and inculcate a sense of technical understanding on what exactly the principles of universal design are and what are the different kinds of disabilities that one needs to cater to. We'll also be looking at doing this through a model center with inclusive facilities. So we're looking to see how we can empower by accepting and acknowledging first that there is a problem, building that awareness, creating learning content to be able to design inclusive. That's really the objective of Udita. At this point, I think I'd like to introduce Sarojini from Emphasis, F1 Foundation. And I'm really happy to see the logo of F1 Foundation having innovate, include, and impact as part of their tagline, which really means you need to innovate to be able to include and have the maximum impact. And I think that's very telling. I'm just going to introduce Sarojini before I ask her to say a few words. She's the Vice President and Head of Corporate Social Responsibility at Emphasis, and enables the organization's implementation of the CSR strategy to drive social impact in the critical focus areas of education, inclusion, livelihood, and sustainability. Sarojini manages program identification and development, partner relationships, and communications, while ensuring regular compliance and required spending within this scope. She also leads the environmental, social, and governance initiatives within the organization. Sarojini, we'd love to hear from you.
Good morning to everyone, and thank you, Geeta, for introducing me. As Geeta mentioned, I head corporate social responsibility for Mphasis. For those of you who are not aware, Mphasis is actually a technology organization, and as part of our community activities and social impact projects, we support a lot of other organizations to enable socially excluded and economically disadvantaged people to live in an equitable society. And one of the focus areas that, as Geeta had mentioned also, is that we look at is towards the inclusion of persons with disability. And I'll just take a couple of minutes to share why this partnership with the AWAS and the UDITA initiative is important to in this journey, and the role that each of us is probably going to play in this journey. And I'd also like to share, why this key focus area is very significant to remove inequity that PWDs face today. And I was, wanted to look up some statistics which Geeta has already shared, but I was looking up at what equity really means, and there's this image. And you can find it on Google if I can't share here, but I'll describe the image to you because I thought it was really, profound. It actually shows three people who are standing behind a wall, and they are watching a football match, or rather they want to watch a football match on the other side of the wall. And the three people are different. One is an able-bodied man. The other is about a 6-year-old girl. And the third is a person in a wheelchair. And each of them has a block of wood in front of them. The first one, each of them has an equal sized block of wood. So the man standing on the wood is easily able to look over the wall. The girl standing on the wood has to, stand on her toes. And the person on the wheelchair cannot, of course, use the block of wood in front of them. And when you think of equity, the next image kind of shows that, the man just stands on level ground. He's still able to look over the wall and watch the match. The girl has 2 blocks of wood, and so she's comfortably standing on it and watching the match. And we have a ramp for the person on the wheelchair who's again now able to, view the match comfortably. So I think it's clear that there are differences among us, and all of us have a role to play to create that equitable society and access to everybody. And as Geeta had mentioned, 2.2% of India's population lives with some kind of mental or physical disability, and worldwide, in fact, 15% of the world's population lives with some form of disability. So such a large minority in the world makes PWDs a part of our diversity, and they have the same right to play an active role in society. And similarly, we have elderly and pregnant women and so on, all of them requiring different opportunities and experiences. So if you think of our cities, it's great. We provide so many opportunities to people, but the built environment, I think, imposes a lot of practical and a lot of obstacles for people with disabilities in India to be able to freely move around. And I do think universal design is an answer to that, because it's the design of environment that can be accessed by everyone, regardless of their age or their size, their ability or disability. So Mphasis has always championed inclusion in mainstream spaces and not in isolation. So while in early years in 2000, we looked at supporting people with disabilities directly by training them or educating them, we recognize that it's also about everybody else's contributions in the area. So, we've worked in spaces like in transportation, creating accessible transport, or even in leisure spaces like a museum, we've encouraged accessibility there. And we hope through this partnership as well, we can encourage equal access in community spaces. I also think this partnership will create a lot of awareness, sensitivity, and building capability among the architects and engineers and design community to address the gaps that we currently have. So best wishes to all the students and faculty and all of us to equip our future architects to build a better and equitable space and future for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarojini. I think that really kind of told us why emphasis in this is in this space, and a huge thank you again to Emphasis F1 Foundation as well for supporting this project. I'll quickly move on to tell you what this project is about. So you have, we've divided it into 3 parts. This is what we had presented to F1 Foundation, which got accepted. We have project awareness, which is, I've become synonymous with walks. How can you have a project that we are doing without a walk? So we are doing a walk from Chennai to Bangalore. Sometime in January is how I see it, where we would be, again, this would be the focus, and we'd be raising awareness on accessibility. We're going to be doing social walkathons. So there will be the one when I end in Bangalore, there will be that one that we will design. But I would really urge all of you, any leaders here who want to take it up in their respective cities, we'll be putting out ways in which you can manage that, and we could really magnify and amplify the effort that an individual can only do so much, and I think we can all do so much together. Project education is where we are. The first one that's been kicked off today is the faculty development program. This is going to be followed by the collaborative studio with 9 colleges. It says 10, but 9 colleges, and who have already kind of pretty much come on board. And we're going to create a self-paced course, which we urge all the colleges present here today to kind of make mandatory for all your students. The self-paced learning content is likely to be ready by the next academic year. So for sure, or even earlier, for sure, it would be something that you could put to use with your students before you start your studio journeys. We're also looking to do a lot of presentations at schools. And even there, we're going to use our clubs. We have a lot of ARCOS clubs that have come on board as a medium. Anybody else who'd like to do it, we welcome you as well. We have a project ideation, which is going to be really focusing on competitions and awards. This FDP is also going to end in an award for the best academic plan. Maybe at the end of the 3 months, we will evaluate submissions that come in and see which one really merits some recognition. And there would be other competitions that we would be putting out as well. I'm not sure how many of you know about the bridge scholarships that we do through Ethos. And there as well, we put out a couple of scholarships for persons with disabilities, either themselves, students who are affected themselves, or someone from their family is a person with disability, is someone is our applications we're looking for. Tomorrow is the last date. It's not much work. So if you're interested, please submit your entries at the earliest. So we got our team to look at what our buildscape and our landscape looks like today. And this is a render that came up where you see how our typical cities look. You see high rises, you see low rises, you see green spaces, you see gardens, parks, you see roads, and so on. And then we started thinking about how will it look when you start including everyone. And that's when we started adding, say, a ramp. And then we discussed how while, say there is a little mound that there is a mound that is inaccessible directly, but how can we not just take the person to the top of the mound, but how can we make that journey, which is why we have mounds in gardens. How do we make those mounds more interesting, even for people on wheelchairs? Then we said, let's look at swings for wheelchair users, accessible handrails, tactile footpaths. We talked about audio road signals. These were just ideas that kept coming up, and we kept adding to this picture. This picture and this painting is really, this picture is incomplete, really. It's just ideas and possibilities. But I'm looking forward to all of us coming together and adding value to this entire, visual or scenario that we meet, that meets our eyes every day, and we actually make an impact together. And there would be innovations that would come from you people, which have not been thought of. There could be innovations that are already being used that we could, again, amplify in terms of its usage. And that's something that, again, like I said, together we can make that difference. Just to take you through what the next, the faculty development program is going to be really like. Today's day one. It starts with this Sense and Sensibility lecture by Poonam Natarajan and Shivani Shah and Bhavna and a few others from Vidyasagar, who I'll tell you a little bit about as we go on. This will be more like an introduction and a sensitization, and hence we've kept this open to all. The day one also has Niju Dubey, who is a discipline from the Faculty of Universal Design at NID Bangalore. And we have, like I said, Bhavna and Harishankar. Pooja is really going to be anchoring the FDP over the 3 days, and Sonam will also be working with all of you on this. So this is day one, sensitization. On day two, we talk about how we can bring universal design to your studios. And we have Dr. Rachna Khare, Dr. Kavita Murukkar, Siddhant Shah, I'm sure those in the space of accessibility would know him, who runs an NGO called Access for All and has been a scholarship winner from Ethos in the past for a project he proposed to make museums accessible to the visually challenged. We have Anastasios who's a professor at University of Greenwich, who will be talking about practice of teaching for holistic solutions. And we have Enrique Rovira from Spain, Barcelona, who's going to be talking on accessibility being a pending subject in university education. That's on day two. Day three is really a worldview on universal design. We have Anjali Agarwal, who's really a campaigner in this space of accessibility and runs an NGO called Samarthyam. Eliana Pires from, again, Spain. She's a Brazilian though. She's a specialist in inclusive design. Ruchira Sareen, who's a co-founder and director of DEOC, will be talking about legality and guidelines for universal design. And Ramakrishna Machari, who is a co-founder of DEOC, will talk about, again, tools, legalities. They both are going to be speaking together. We also have on day three, Tarun Valecha, who's a dear friend, a marathoner, and who, along with Deepa Malik is the first Paralympic medalist and an Arjuna awardee, first woman Paralympic medalist from India. And Tarun and Deepa really got together to see how stadiums can be made more accessible. And they're going to be speaking on that as a case study and look at spaces that empower and those that don't. Gaurav Raheja doesn't need any introduction. He's going to be talking on enabling environments. Incidentally, I was very heartened to meet a young man yesterday who's training and doing his PhD under Gaurav at IIT Roorkee. Gives me hope to see people choosing universal design and accessibility as a topic for their PhD. We will be having architect Abhay Purohit, the president of Council of Architecture, on the final day. And like I said, we just heard this morning that the president of Indian Institute of Architects, Mr. Vilas Abchat, will also be joining us. That brings me to this morning. I'm happy to introduce Poonam Natarajan, who is one of the pioneers of disability and development activities in India. Whenever I went to any of the other speakers, asking them to come on board, and I mentioned Poonam, and every one of them knew her. In 1985, she founded the Spastic Society of India in Chennai, which is presently known as Vidyasagar. Vidyasagar today runs several programs, including early intervention, special education, physiotherapy, speech and communication therapy, vision training, occupational therapy, co-curricular activities, counseling, vocational training, exploring and creating employment opportunities, and training of resource persons to work in the field of disability. She was the former chairperson of the National Trust for the Welfare of Persons with Autism, Cerebral Palsy, Intellectual Disability and Multiple Disability, Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment, Government of India. She has pioneered people-centered programs for adults and intellectual and development disabilities and served on the new law committee formed to harmonize national legislation with the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Quite an accomplished personality we have in our midst. Thank you, Poonam, for joining us. I'm also going to quickly take this opportunity to introduce Shivani Shah. Before that, Poonam is a recipient of 14 awards, including the NCPEDP Helen Keller Award and the UNES CAP Disability Champion Award of 2012. So that brings me to Shivani Shah, who's an architect from our space in that sense, and a built environment accessibility consultant, a leading advocate for neurodiverse accessibility. With a strong background in research and a deep understanding of inclusive design principles, she's dedicated to creating environments that are accessible to all individuals, regardless of their abilities, which is what all of us should be doing. In addition to her research endeavors, Shivani is a co-founder of Accessible, an early age startup. Her entrepreneurial spirit and commitment to inclusivity have led her to win the Smart City Innovation Challenge 2022, organized by NIUA and the United Nations in India. Currently, Shivani serves as the project coordinator in the team for accessibility and reasonable accommodation, which is TARA, at Vidyasagar in Chennai, and is an additional museum manager at the Museum of Possibilities, which I'm sure they'll share more about. Before I call Poonam to take stage, I'd like to just quickly share this old saying by a rabbi, which often inspires me. He says, I am I because I am I. You are you because you are you. If I am I because you are you, and if you are you because I am I, then I am not and you are not. I've been thinking how incorrect this is in our context for Udita. As an architect or a designer, I need to be I because you are you. I need to understand you, your world, and your differences to be a different me. I need to see you, hear you, and feel you to design to make the world ours. I need to design to make it possible for you to be you. With that, I'll welcome Poonam Natarajan to mesmerize us with her presentation and inspire us more than anything else. There are so many youngsters here today. I see 433 signups, and if you include all the students in different classrooms, you're talking of a couple of thousand probably being here. So over to you, Poonam.
Thank you, Geeta. It's a real pleasure to be here. Good morning to all of you. And Geeta's given a beautiful introduction to this whole idea of these workshops. Just before I start, I wanted to say that TARA, which is a unit of Vidyasagar, Team for Accessibility and Reasonable Accommodation, was set up in order to make homes accessible for people with disabilities. So the team is, Shivani is the coordinator right now, and you'll meet the other two also. Bhavna and Hari Shankar. They're both alumni of Vidyasagar. They were students many, many years ago, and as people with disabilities, they have achieved a lot in terms of one, their education and their creativity and their entire contribution and membership at TARA. So Bhavna has a newsletter called Connect, and I'd like lots of you to subscribe for it. And Hari Shankar works with us at the museum and also with TARA. And now basically, Geeta was talking about the numbers, how many people with disabilities. The census is of 2011, which is almost 12 years ago. And in that time, what has happened is that the Rights of People with Disabilities Act came about in 2016, which was actually to harmonize with what India was signatory to, the United Nations Convention for Rights of People with Disabilities. And we added in that from 11 disabilities, which were counted in 2011, now became 21 disabilities. So obviously the figures are much more. We don't know the exact figures because of the COVID, we couldn't have the census at this year in 2021, and therefore we are not sure. But as Sarojini was saying, in any population across the world, the UN and WHO figures are 15% of any population has a disability. So it's large numbers. So when we talk about universal design, I think it's very important to understand what the needs of people with disabilities are, because whether they're 2% as the census says or 15% as the WHO says, what we really know is there are a huge number of people who are marginalized across all classes, caste, sex, everything, because disability is a cross-cutting issue. Now, you know, a year and a half ago, Vidyasagar partnered with the government of Tamil Nadu. We are based in Chennai, and we set up what is called today the Museum of Possibilities. It's basically a demonstration center for assistive devices. And it came about because we were working on living interdependently in the community. And the museum actually divides itself into live, work, and play, the major life domains, and shows what all is available across this country in terms of assistive devices, because these are made by small entrepreneurs scattered across the country, and people with disabilities don't know what is available where. So a one-stop shop kind of place with all the data and vendor lists is something that helps families and people with disabilities. Now, we've had a lot of professionals visiting the museum in Chennai, and a group of architects, one is College of Architects, came to visit the museum, and they were wonderful. They loved the place and they were very creative and sensitive, asked a lot of questions. But at the end of the day, they said, well, we don't know how to do this because we've never seen or met a person with disability. And that's when we realized that this is a big, huge lacuna, because disabled people, because actually there's so many barriers in the physical environment, disabled people are forced to remain indoors. They're most invisible in India. Most people who come from other countries also ask, don't you have disabled people in India? We don't see them on the roads. Of course, you don't see them. Look at our pavements, look at our roads, look at the inaccessibility in their physical environment. So disabled people are, there are many people who've never met a disabled person, which is amazing and very sad. So that's how Shivani started thinking of, and we started workshops for architect students on understanding disability. And we bring to you a slice of that workshop today, and we want you to meet some of the people with disabilities who will tell you their own stories, and then we'll take it from there. So over to you, Shivani, and let's bring in all the different people who are participating in today's workshop. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Poonam. And as you've correctly mentioned about what happened when the architects group visited Museums of Possibilities, with that, I would like to share this cartoon to start our session. So this cartoon very rightly depicts the reality of our architecture journey. During our course of architecture, education and practice, we learn so many critical perspectives to understand people, places, and buildings. However, we miss to consider the needs of the largest invisible majority in India, which is people with disabilities. And even if we have considered their needs, like the experience we had in the museum, we might have done so without interacting with them, knowing them, or consulting with them. And so hence we bring this session promoting the principle of nothing about us without us, stressing the importance that involving people with disabilities in the process of design is very important. And so we invite you to a storytelling session. We invite you for a, So we invite you today for a storytelling session that is curated to help shift the perspective and focus from perceiving disability as a personal tragedy or a medical condition to understanding it as a consequences of social and environmental barriers. So like we were discussing how many disabilities are there, and there are 21 disabilities that are recognized now by the RPDW Act 2016. Today we have in this session, we have invited people with different disabilities on one platform who would be talking and interacting and sharing their life stories and journeys with us, which will become a platform for our further interaction. So I would like to call upon Aziz. So we have Aziz, Ravi, Aditya, Bhavna, Harishankar, and Smita. They are on the platform currently. To make this entire session accessible for all of you, we have taken certain measures. So some of our speakers today have unclear speech or no speech, or they have difficulty speaking in live sessions. And hence we have used pre-recorded videos and voiceovers to convey their stories to you. The script that is spoken by them is also available as a text on the movie. So if you're unable to understand what is going on, you can always refer to the text. And also we have a sign language interpreters for those who are not able to hear. So I would like to start the session by calling our first speaker. Aziz, are you here? If you're here, please wave to everyone so that... Okay.
Hi everyone. In this presentation, I will like to take you for an exciting journey of a person
Shivani,
with visual impairment.
we can't see that screen.
Yeah.
We can see
You
the
can't?
folder, but not the screen.
Just a second. Let me know. Can you now see?
Yes.
Yeah. So Aziz is over here and he has done a recording of his journey. Let's hear from him.
Hi everyone. In this presentation, I would like to take you for an exciting journey of a person with visual impairment, which includes fun and entertainment in the build space. Shall we go? So I am from IIT Madras, have completed Humanities and Development Studies there, and now I'm working as a Business Development Enabler at Able Aura. And few more exciting things are there. We'll learn one by one. So visual impairment is a spectrum. Some people can see less, some people can see more. There is a nearsightedness, farsightedness, color blindness. For me, it is total blindness. Like I cannot see anything, including light and color. Since I cannot see anything with my eyes, I use my other senses like touching, smelling, listening to figure out objects, to figure out people, who they are, how they're looking, what is their height, and so many information I used to identify with all those senses. I get familiarized with a place by asking people's assistants where the place is, where the toilet, where the room, all those things like that. I'll hold the people's hand and I'll ask them to show a few objects so that to avoid hitting them in the next sessions. And I don't like people holding my hands without asking if you want any help or something like that, because sometimes it happens while standing in the road, people hold our hands to cross the road, like they'll think that we are ready for crossing or something like that. So I don't like these kind of acts, but definitely I need people's assistance the first time, and once I get familiarized, then I'll be good to go. If there is no assistance, I look for handrails while walking in the steps so that it will give me a support as well as the direction, because my legs are fine, my hands are fine. Only the problem is with my eyes. So I just need a direction where to go. So most of the times in build spaces like metro trains, metro stations, we'll have handrails. So I'll just touch that and I'll walk in the direction that it takes me. So that will be very helpful for me. Another important assistive tool is the tactile flooring in the build spaces, where I use my foot to identify places, the direction, where is the junction, where to turn, and all those things. It is a best friend of mine while I'm working in the metro station, especially. Braille maps eliminates people's help at the beginning itself. If there is a Braille map, we don't need anybody to assist us. We can easily identify where the places are by touching the Braille map. So Braille maps is the need of the hour in playable spaces from my point of view. By the way, I'm a stand-up comedian and a social media influencer. I used to influence people with a bit of comedy with regards to disability, so that people think inclusion and disability as part of their life, not with regards to sympathy or donations or charity, something like that. It should be part of their life and they have to think about that. So that's my idea and that's my thought. With that, I would like to conclude the extreme short presentation, and thank you so much everyone for this wonderful opportunity. I hope this presentation would have given you a thought, a sprinkling thought on what is disability and what is visual impairment. Hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aziz, and rightly pointed out that comedy is a way that he has been using to raise awareness about visual impairment and about disability. We have our second speaker, Ravi. So Ravi Shankar is a person with hearing impairment, and I'm going to play his video now. Let me know if it is visible.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Ravi Shankar, R-A-V-I-S-H-A-N-K-A-R. When I'm going to talk about hearing impairment, I'm going to tell one story. About me, my name is Shivani Shah from Chennai. I was 33 years old. I hard of hearing person. I used in hearing at both ears due to agility. I'm a lip reader and also a convention in someone. I knew to set the face-to-face with them. Currently, I'm working with Disability Education Unit Department as communication specialist. What is hearing impairment? A person said, as the hearing loss, I do not able to hear as well as someone technical hearing. Maybe hearing issues 20 dB or better in both ears. It can be made moderated, audible, severe effect in both ears. A event of hearing loss includes the loss of the ability and communication with others, language development in children. We can lead due to social isolation, loneliness, and frustration, particularly among older people with the hearing loss. Everyday challenge. When I go to some people look me and think I am not disabled person. Since my disability is not disabled, it told him that I am a person with hearing impairment and need to talk to louder. Sometimes I meet and express themselves very angry. For my hearing impairment, people communication is something very challenges.
There's no sound, Shivani.
My message for you.
Is it now there?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just.
When I go to place natural, artificial light, these will happen without play, so that I able to see people and this movement properly. Available of sign language interpreter for the sign board. My message for you, few things keep mind while interaction with hearing impairment person. Communication skills is very important. Talk slowly and louder. Use body language gesture to conversing. If they ask the question, repeat some, please get too angry. If you don't know the sign language, use image, picture, and write to conversing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ravi, for sharing and telling your story, and also what could we do when we interact with you. So I will now go to the third speaker that we have for today. He's Aditya Mahesh. Aditya is also here on the screen in this chat. Aditya, you can wave. I'm not sure, in between so many people, we are able to spot him, but he's over here. I'm just going to play his. Okay, is the screen visible?
Yes.
Hi everyone, I am Aditya Mahesh. I am going to talk about intellectual disability through my own story. It is difficult for me to remember things, so I am going to read through my notes. I hope you don't mind. I am 30 years old. I have finished my degree in animation and visual effects, post which I did my diploma in hotel management. I am currently associated with Vidyasagar. I have a mild intellectual disability. Intellectual disability means when there are limitations to a person's ability to learn at an expected level and function in daily life. The level of a disability will vary from mild to severe for each individual. I have difficulty in learning, understanding, and can't put forth my ideas clearly. Sometimes I might ask the same thing to you again and again. There are some things that help me in my day-to-day activities. I need to have my day fully planned and structured. I need to know the exact time and place of the activities that I am going to do. I can't handle sudden change very well. I need to be informed beforehand if there are changes to be made and provide me with sufficient time to adjust. My mobile phone is my best friend. Let me explain. Since I tend to forget things, taking notes on my phone helps me to remember things. When I go out, it helps me to book a ride and find my routes. I can travel anywhere alone. I am independent, but sometimes I can get lost in public buildings. If clear signboards or maps are not present, during that time I usually ask people the direction, but they get angry with me if I ask more than once. Sometimes I get anxious due to a lot of people around me. After that time, I don't know what to do or where to go. Having the availability of a quiet place might help me with my anxiety. I love traveling. Traveling to new places gives me happiness. I like to stay in a tent with a bonfire. Also, I like to explore new restaurants and taste different food. At last, I have a message for you all. By incorporating design features such as clear signages, accessible routes, and well-trained staff, we can create a more inclusive and welcoming environment for lots of people like me.
Thank you so much, Aditya, for sharing your story with us and also telling us about the importance of having a schedule and a structured environment that not just is about the activities that he does on a day-to-day basis, but it also is about the transition spaces that we design when we build. And also he has spoken a lot of other things like quiet spaces and other things that we are going to talk about in detail. So thank you so much. I'm going to just pause here to see if everything is working out well, or can we continue?
Beautiful, Shivani. It's going very, very well. Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Maybe Aditya and Ravi, they could be pinned at some stage so that they can meet everybody.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, if it is possible, if we can have them on, all of the speakers who are here, they're all joined, and if it is possible to have them on a spotlight or on a view, I think it'll be really good so that everyone could. Okay.
Yes. Can we request them to switch on their cameras? Our team will add them on spotlight.
Yeah. Please switch on your cameras, and it is great if all of us are there on the platform so that everyone can see us.
That's
But if you're not comfortable, we completely understand.
No, that's Bhavna. Can we have?
No, I think they would love that.
Yeah, Hari Shankar. Can we have Aziz, Ravi, and Aditya also, please?
Yes.
Poonam and Shivani, while we are waiting for them, do you mind taking a quick question? There are things coming up in the chat. There are,
yeah, sure.
Because I think it will set the context as well. There are alternates being given for persons with disabilities, and I'd like you to explain why we use PWD and not differently abled and specially challenged. All those are coming up, so it'd be nice to hear from your experts.
Yes, in fact, I was planning to talk about it in the end.
Sure.
Because there's so many, but let me just take a minute until we get Aziz and Aditya and Ravi on the screen. You know, it's been over the last few decades. It's actually all over the world. What are the terms to be used in disability is a big, huge area of debate. But in the end, people with disabilities say, please call us people with disabilities or disabled people, because I want to be called not differently abled, because everybody is differently able. It's not just disabled people. All of us are differently able, not specially abled, because all of us are specially able in some way or the other. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. So what they really would like to is to call, just to be called as disabled people. But, you know, we say that no, person first. So we at least say people with disabilities, person with disability. We will not say cerebral palsied Hari Shankar.
Right.
We will say Hari Shankar with cerebral palsy. Right. You know, that is a difference between, you talk about the person is more important than his disability. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I thought that was important.
Hi, Smita. So she's one of our speakers. These three are going to come on. The three that we've just finished with are Ravi. Can you just switch on your video?
There he is.
Where's Ravi? And where's Aditya?
You request him to switch on his video.
Say hello. Smita, hi. Unmute yourself. You're not able to.
Sonam, can we help her unmute? There she is.
Hi, yeah, I have unmuted.
Hi.
Just like to add a couple of aspects with your answer, like why persons with disabilities is also because you know, we want to tell the world that the disability is also caused by the environment. It is a social issue and not just a personal issue. So the moment we say disability, the disability is caused by the society, and that message keeps on going with every time when we use the term disability. So that is the major this thing. And when you give a brilliant terms like able, specially abled, or Divyang, it is actually excluding us.
Right.
And we don't want exclusion, we want inclusion. And the total inclusion will happen when all the environment, all the infrastructure and information communication technology, product services, everything is accessible, completely accessible. And we are one. At that point of time, we won't be called as persons with disabilities. We will be called as Smita, Harishankar, and by our names, like all of everybody are called.
Lovely.
That's
right.
it.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. So I think it's that's the whole definition of disability is an impairment, which is the disability is caused because of barriers, both in the physical environment and attitudinal barriers. Right. Thank you, Smita. Are the other two coming or no? Aditya?
So I just am on a call with Aditya. Host has stopped his video, so he's not able
maybe
to
at the
switch
end
on
we'll
and
get
come.
them. Shivani, you can ask them to come in the end. Let's continue. Okay, great.
Sure. Okay. So now we have our next speaker. She's also on the screen, Bhavna. And Bhavna has done a video and also a voiceover for proper articulation. So I'm going to play that.
Try to understand a bit of this condition through my cerebral palsy. Let's try to understand a bit of this condition through my own story. I am Bhavna Botta, an alumnus of Vidyasagar, and a commerce graduate with specialization in corporate secretaryship. A decade back, Ahimsa silk and the tribal women weaving it caught my attention, and thus Sahagika, the silk boutique, came into existence and flourished well. But I was losing interest, so moved it online and started catering only to dedicated customers. A few years down the lane, I ventured into something close to my heart, Connect Special, an online newsletter for inclusion. As president of the International Society for Augmentative and Alternative Communication, ISAC India chapter, and as a member of the Disability Rights Alliance, and member of TARA, my aim is to break barriers and create an inclusive community. I am a person with cerebral palsy with highly restricted physical movements and use a custom-built wheelchair for mobility. My speech impairment makes me a user of augmentative and alternative communication systems. I use my eyes to communicate through a specially designed alphabet board, as that's the only coordinated movement I can do. Along with this, I use a variety of software and access devices for communication, leisure, and for work, which you can see in the video coming up. I use an alphabet chart through eye pointing to communicate. I use the speech assistant app on scan mode to type. I access this with a movement sensor switch by using my right foot.
Row 2. Row 3. When can we meet?
A combination of assistive technologies, personal assistance, and environmental adaptations is what makes up my life. I love traveling and being as adventurous as possible. Whether it is a gondola to go up the mountains or a speedboat, I am there enjoying. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. And also to let us in your speedboat journey. It was thrilling to see you on the boat. So one of the things that Bhavna mentioned in her presentation was the use of communication boards and use of augmentative and alternative communication methods. This is one of the features that we had recently incorporated in one of the projects we did in Bangalore for the NASSCOM Global Inclusion Summit. And we created an entire augmentative and alternative communication system for people who would be non-verbal or who would communicate through pointing, hand pointing or eye gesture methods. So I think that is another aspect, except for the signboards, this is another way of looking at how built environment could be enabling for a lot of people. So with that, I would like to call our next speaker. Our next speaker is Hari Shankar, and he is also a part of the Tara team. Let me just play his video.
Multiple Multiple disabilities. Let's try to understand this through my own story. I am Harishankar, 34 years old, a person with multiple disabilities, a happy single Chennaiite and an alumni of Vidyasagar. Currently, I am a member of TARA, Team for Accessibility and Reasonable Accommodation, Vidyasagar. Multiple disabilities refers to a combination of two or more disabling conditions that have a combined effect on the person's communication, mobility and performance of day-to-day tasks. I have reading difficulties, mobility issues, limited hand function, low vision, lack in speech clarity. I am a wheelchair user and my power wheelchair is like my companion for all activities of daily living. This gives me independence of mobility. However, I need wheelchair accessible transport to reach places beyond accessible built environments. I use the accessible transport service Get Going, started by Vidyasagar. Through inclusion, joined Lady and Al for my higher secondary education and completed my bachelor's in commerce at Loyola, Chennai. Due to low vision, I have print disability, but I am good at listening. With the availability of recorded tapes and lectures, I finished my degree. I have difficulty in writing, so I was provided with a scribe to give my exams efficiently. Using phones and applications difficult for me, but if provided with features like contrasting backgrounds, increased font size, voice recognition, I can use applications on my own on my iPad 6, though it takes time. I love traveling and visiting places. I like going on rides in theme parks. Chatting with friends and Alexa, listening to songs and dancing, watching cricket are how I enjoy my life. Disability may limit me in various activities but not my appetite. I am a foodie and the name biryani makes my mouth water. For me, food is before anyone or anything else. Thank you.
There is a message that Hari wanted to share with all of you, and he insisted that he should be able to speak to everyone here with his message. So Hari, would you like to speak your message? We have Hari on the
I don't expect the one to do it or not. I can adapt. Just make it so I can adapt. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hari. And Hari's message is very well echoing, and it will be when we will talk later on that how it is accessibility is from both ends, and we will also need to look at how we can build and take few steps towards building an enabling environment so that people are able to adopt. So thank you, Hari, for this wonderful insight and message. Now we have the last speaker with us, Smita, who's already spoken to you about the answer of why people with disabilities are like to be called people with disabilities or disabled and not specially abled or differently abled. So Smita is here with us. Smita is going to talk about a very interesting part of this whole disability spectrum, which is invisible disabilities. So most often we would look at disabilities and we would understand if a person is with disabilities by looking at their assistive devices like wheelchair or cane or sunglasses. But there are so many disabilities like the one that Aditya spoke about, or the one that Smita is going to speak about, or other mental health conditions that are there that are invisible in nature. And it is very important for us as designers and architects to also understand this invisible condition of disability. So Smita, I invite you to come and speak about your journey. I'm just
Also,
going to share her video.
Yeah, sorry, Shivani.
Yeah,
No, I think Anandi, Aditya's mother, I think Aditya wanted to come on. Maybe somebody has to pin Anandi, Aditya's mother's laptop.
Yeah. Hi, Aditya.
Yeah, please say hi to everybody because this time's running up.
He has to be unmuted.
You're on mute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Akka, this is my mother's laptop, Akka.
Yes. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Just say hello to everybody.
Okay, you can just say hi to everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Aditya.
Hi, everyone.
Good to have you here.
Okay.
Nice to see you. Yeah.
Okay. Hi.
Oh,
thank you.
Sorry for the trouble.
No, it's okay. No, not troubling. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for your message.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
So moving on, I'd like to share the story that Smita has recorded for us.
Hi everyone, I would like to take you all through multiple sclerosis in my personal story and how it is invisible but yet a disability in the real sense. My name is Smita Sadashivan. I am a disability rights advocate from Chennai and I basically work on accessible and inclusive spaces, services, policies and programs for persons with disabilities. My condition is multiple sclerosis, which is an invisible disability. Why I call it as invisible disability is because when I walk, my need for support is not seen until I ask for a seat or a wheelchair or a hold. Multiple sclerosis is a chronic autoimmune condition that affects one's central nervous system. So what happens is signals from the brain or the information from the brain doesn't reach different parts of the body. So the body parts are not really able to function appropriately. For combating the challenges that I face from multiple sclerosis, there are different coping mechanisms that I use. One of them is wheelchair. My wheelchair not only helps me in walking by pushing it, I use it for convenient seating arrangement because the general seating arrangements wherever we go is not accessible and comfortable, making me very tired. I take short breaks and I do rest for some time, and I also use accessibility provisions in my phone. I need safe, accessible and very hygienic toilets in my close proximity, and because they are not available when I go out, I have to use diapers all the time. One of the reasons of my successful career is also because of the reasonable accommodations I had at workplace. Reasonable accommodation is nothing but individualized support provisions based on a person's support needs. As I told you earlier, I required multiple breaks and Vidyasagar provided me a bed inside my office room so that I can work without getting so much of tiredness. When I traveled to the US, they provided me a business class air travel so that I can lay down. They also carried a portable cot wherever I went so that I can rest whenever I require. Finally, I would like to reiterate that neither all disabilities are visible nor all of them are covered under the RPDA 2016. So, as architects and designers, what can you do about it? Number one, try to know and understand the people for whom you are designing for. Two, follow a participatory approach in design and consult with the primary stakeholders from diverse disability groups. And three, explore and ensure specific support systems and reasonable accommodations that enables people to function effectively.
Thank you so much, Smita, and thank you for sharing the last message, which was very powerful. Am I audible? Yeah, okay. Fine. No, you have to continuously check. Sometimes in online meeting, it's difficult to know. Anyway, so the last message that Smita ended with, she also spoke about a concept of reasonable accommodation. So we all have been talking about accessibility and accessible environments. But so far, we have not been able to address or discuss well this term reasonable accommodation. One of the parts of TARA team, which is Team for Accessibility and Reasonable Accommodation, we do focus a lot on reasonable accommodation. And as Smita said in her story, that reasonable accommodations are person-centric, individualized, customized needs that can enable them in a built environment. So definitely this question has come up a lot of time in these kinds of lectures about inclusive design, that all disabilities are not the same. And since we are talking about a diversity, how can one feature really empower so many people with different disabilities? And so the answer to that is having the provision of reasonable accommodations that can empower individuals with different kinds of needs with individualized support system. And that is one that Smita got, which has led her to a beautiful journey in her career. And that is the power of accessible designs and also reasonable accommodations. So with that, I would like to end the storytelling session. And I hope that the storytelling session, although we only had 6 people right now to speak with you, but we really hope that this brought about a certain kind of perspective to look at people with disabilities in a way that they are people first. And we also got to know, so there are so many myths that we break while we talk to people with disabilities. Like Aziz spoke to us about how when he says that he studies in IIT, people are really shocked that, okay, how he's been studying in IIT. Or if Bhavna says that she loves traveling and she loves enjoying on a speedboat, it's difficult for people to relate to people with disabilities also being able to do activities that all of us do, which is a fact that we would like to bring from this platform, that it is all about how we see each other, and that is why different abilities and specially abled is not the word that people would like to promote now. So with that, I would like to end this storytelling session, and I would like to invite Poonam again on the platform to take us ahead from this.
Yeah. And Yeah, I'm sure these, we were hoping we could add a few more disabilities, especially we wanted one of our colleagues who's deafblind to be part of this, but because of time constraints, we couldn't add more disabilities. So you just got a kind of a good glimpse of the different factors, the different needs, support systems that different people with disabilities need, and also the kind of lives they lead. Because people with disabilities are people first, and they do everything you and I do, but they are restricted because of the barriers in the environment, barriers, attitudinal barriers many times. And that's how, the UN Convention, in fact, has defined disability now. Disability is a physical, sensory, or a mental impairment, which becomes a disability because of the barriers in the environment, right? And these barriers are both physical and attitudinal. Like we have the stigma about disability. We have people asking many embarrassing questions about if you have a wheelchair going out, they want to know, why is this person on a wheelchair? Why do you want to take your child out who's on a wheelchair? Why don't you just keep him at home or keep her at home? And so they don't, somehow they don't, there's a lot of stigma about just leading an active, enjoyable life for people with disabilities. Now, but disability has come a long, long way from, earlier. It has actually had many paradigm shifts, because earlier we had disability was a charity issue. It was always, if you had a child with disability, I remember my son with cerebral palsy, who was born about 44 years ago, all the doctors said was, forget about him now, have another child. Or the other way, in the West, they would say, put this child in an institution and you can just go about your life. So from the cradle to the grave, they had just shut off people with disabilities behind, the high walls, and nobody saw them. They were invisible. And it was a whole movement which started in the West, which actually kind of liberated people with disabilities. And today we are talking about deinstitutionalization and most institutions have been closed down, and any that still exist are being closed down in the West, because people are talking about living in the community. But this whole journey from that being in an institution to where we are today has been a long journey. And that is why the conditioning in people's mind, the first conditioning is about capacity. Somehow you feel that if you're in a wheelchair, if you can't walk, you can't talk, or you can't think. So that the lack of capacity, or the lack that people with disabilities are not able to do what non-disabled people, or as they're called now, neurotypical people, can do, is something that is very heavily conditioned in our minds. And we have to actually actively work on removing that and looking at people with disabilities as people with many strengths and many weaknesses, many needs, many support needs. But we need to understand that they're people first. So from these institutions, we went on to what today we call the medical model. The medical model of disability, and many are still stuck in that model. But we have moved on. But the medical model of disability was where the rehabilitation started around World War II, and it was about making people as near normal as possible. So if you can't walk, I will do therapy, train. And you can go to school, you can have a job, you can lead a life, you can raise a family only when you can walk. So I will keep doing therapy until you can walk. So it was about becoming as near normal as possible. And that was what we talked about as the medical model. And the medical model was pretty oppressive. because disabled people realized that there was no such word as normal. Nobody's normal. Each one of us are individuals. Each one of us have strengths. Each one of us has weaknesses. And the weakness Hari or Bhavna may have is that they have a problem in mobility. Or the weakness Aziz may have is that he has a problem, a sensory issue, vision. But he has many strengths too. I mean, in fact, what he really loves to do is, at our Museum of Possibility, the Museum Cafe, Aziz spends many hours with his girlfriend there. So it's very important to remember that people with disabilities will do the same things that all of us do. So from this medical model, which is pretty oppressive, which went on for many, many, many years, and all the rehab centers that started were always trying to do that, until we got what is now called the UN Convention for Rights of People with Disabilities. This is a very important convention because it's a treaty, it's a world treaty where you heard testimonies of people with disabilities themselves. So the way it evolved and the way it was carved out was from what people with disabilities themselves said. And the UN Convention very much talks of moving away from the medical model to the social model, or as we know it as a development, that it is part of the development of a country, of an area, of a region. It is a human right, and it is a social model. So today we're talking about the social development model of disability. And we are not talking about making people as near normal as possible. Rather, we are talking about making the environment accessible. So accessibility has become the big key word today. And you all as architects are the key people who need to think about accessibility, because it's not only about people on wheelchairs. It's about all people, as Geeta talked in the beginning, who may need accessible features within the public spaces and the personal spaces. So today, when we talk about disability, we are actually talking about lowering of attitudinal barriers, removing of physical barriers, and having the people with disabilities to have equal opportunities. Whereas we were talking about equity, having equal opportunities and equity to move forward like all of us and move in from the margins into the mainstream. And I think this is, it's very important for you to keep on going out there, meeting people with disabilities and honing your understanding of disability more and more. Thank you.
Right. So with this, we would like to do a very fun and interactive exercise, and we would like to call up 2 volunteers. This exercise is very much on the foundation of what Poonam has just spoken to all of us, and also about the UNCRPD principles and the rights that we all have. So I'd like to have someone who would like to come up. I need 2 people, and we'd be doing a fun interactive exercise.
Yes,
Hi, Shivani.
yeah, hi, on our WhatsApp group, we did get Roshni and Shini Paul as our volunteers.
Okay. Can we have them on the screen?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Shivani.
Hi,
Can you hear
ma'am.
me? I can hear you, but can't see you on the screen. Okay. Anyway. Okay. All right. So this is an exercise. I'm just going to share my screen and yeah. Okay. Hi, Roshni. Hi. And hi.
Shini, right? Shini or
Shiny.
Shiny.
Yeah,
Shiny. Okay.
Yeah, no. Hi, Roshni. Hi, Shini.
Hi, ma'am. Hi.
Thank you.
Okay. So now this exercise is about, we are going to show you 2 cartoon cue cards. The cartoon cue cards are about a real life situation depicted in a cartoon and a humorous way. And we're going to show you all the UNCRPD principles. Now, these principles are not that difficult. These principles are what Poonam just spoke about. Yes, can you see this? Is my screen visible?
There is a band. Yeah, now it is.
Yeah. So these are the UNCRPD principles: non-discrimination, equality of opportunity, accessibility, the word that we've been using a lot throughout the session, full and effective participation. So I'd like all of you, and especially both the volunteers, to look at the screen, all the words, and quickly just tell us if there's anything that you're not familiar with. Any word, any terminology, so that we can explain you, and then we can move forward to what the exercise is.
Could you tell us a little bit about the respect for inherent dignity and autonomy to make choices?
Yes, I'd like to ask Poonam to explain all the doubts that are coming.
Yeah, Roshni, basically, I think dignity is something all of us look forward to. Everybody wants to be treated in a dignified way. Let's just take a simple thing of having staircase, 3-4 steps. And you go to a restaurant and you say, oh my God, there's no ramp here. I have a wheelchair user with me. They'll say, no, don't worry. We will carry the wheelchair up. But the person on the wheelchair doesn't feel dignified, and they didn't want a ramp. So that is about dignity. Dignity is in all aspects of life. All human beings are looking forward to dignity. And the right to make choices. You see, the lives of people with disabilities have been controlled by families and by professionals, especially in the medical model of disability and in the institution. They were kind of controlled by bells and timetables and things like that. And then the parents were deciding what can this person do, because they feel they cannot, these people with disabilities will make mistakes. They cannot make their own choices. But we actually want to have the right to make mistakes, isn't it? All of us want to have the right to have autonomy. Autonomy is a very important word in each one's life, because you don't want to be oppressed by any one single person. You want autonomy, you want to make some decisions for yourself. And if they're wrong decisions, that's fine, because you also have a right to the grief of that decision if it is a wrong decision. But it has to be my decision, right? So we learn as children, we learn many values, we learn things, but in the end, as adults, we definitely look forward to autonomy, to make decisions for ourselves and to be treated in a dignified way. And many times disabled people are disrespected or ignored or marginalized or treated as people as not existing, ignored totally, right? That's it. Have I made myself?
Yes, thank you so much.
Poonam, if I may chip in, can you explain this respect for evolving capacities and identities of the disabled? You may like to expand on that. Thank you.
Right. So evolving capacities, actually, many things here are twin tracking. We all have evolving capacities. We all grow. Each day we learn new things and we evolve. And actually, this whole sentence is for evolving capacities of children. But somehow we think that IQ score of 40 is what the child will remain all her life. But actually, her capacity can move on. If you can teach her more, she can learn many more things. She or he can learn many more things. So we have to respect evolving capacities of everybody. Each one of us, where we are standing today, may be different tomorrow, because I may learn a new skill. I may learn a new lesson. I may understand a new value. So I'm all the time evolving, and so are disabled people. And the identity, disabled people today, like Smita spoke, actually, they identify as people with disabilities, and they have a pride. It's called disability pride. I'm proud to be disabled, right? So my identity is of a disabled person. Like my identity is of he. Nowadays you write he, she, her, him, that, so my identity is of a woman. My identity is about a person who is a teacher. So like that, people with disabilities have also have an identity of being a disabled person, right? And that you don't want to hide it anymore. Earlier, you were locking up people with disabilities. If in your home, visitors came to your home, you have a child with disability, you would put them away in the other room. But today, that is not done. You have to, people with disabilities are out there as equal partners with their identity as a person with disability, right?
Thank you, Poonam. Fantastic. Thanks a lot.
My pleasure.
Okay, so let's move on to the interactive session that we have planned. You all must be wondering, and some of you might also be thinking, what has this to do with design and architecture? Why do we need to understand about these principles of evolving capacities or dignity or autonomy to make choices? There was a cartoon that was shared earlier which spoke about equity. And this is where, and the discussion that happened there is the continuation of the discussion that is going to happen here, that why do we really need to know about these aspects, and how does our design and the design that we create impact people in different spheres of life and can become discriminating and unequal and exclusive in nature rather than inclusive in nature. So I'm going to pop a cartoon here. Yeah. So I'd like Roshni. So Roshni, please look at this cartoon, and all others who are joining, you can also put your answers in the chat box. So Roshni, let us just take a second to look at this cartoon. And if you can tell us, what do you see here?
Is that a tap on top? There's still a gray band that is coming on top of the screen.
Just a second.
Yeah, that's the screen share. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, it's gone. It's gone. Yeah. So the height difference in the wash basin is not really considered for a wheelchair, a person on a wheelchair. So he's unable to wash his hands as per the in the signage over there.
Okay, all right. So now let us look at this one activity that you said, that this person is unable to wash their hands because of the height difference. Let us see, what do you think in the next slide? It's not. Yeah, sorry. Okay. So in the next slide, this is your cartoon that you just explained, and these are the principles. I'd like you to look at these principles and tell us that by having a design such as this, where there is a difference where a wheelchair user is not able to reach to the sink to wash hands during a time such as of the pandemic, what are the rights that you are violating?
I think accessibility will be the first thing. We've cut off his access to the wash basin by not considering the height restriction. And also we are not allowing him to participate effectively in the activity of washing his hand. Nor have we given him the opportunity to even try to even attempt to wash his hand, and we've not respected his differences or accepted his disability here. So I think most of the principles here have been violated. I mean, if you have to have a checklist kind of a thing.
Okay. And now that you had asked us autonomy to make choices and dignity, do you think that having this kind of a design can affect a person's autonomy to make choice? Is there a choice that that is reflected here?
Yeah, I mean, he might choose not to, if there is no, the design is not really allowing him to make a choice of washing his hands, then again, we're taking his choice away from him, so him or her. So if then we could play around with if we could make the wash basin movable up and down or something, then most of the principles that have been explained in the slide could have been considered.
Right, great. Yes. So this was one of the examples, and like that, a lot of design features that we create as a part of our design and not consider various aspects, something that we're going to learn in the next session of how to look at these aspects, really create discriminating designs for people with disabilities. There, I want to call the next volunteer, Shiny, right?
Yes, I want to add, Shivani.
Yeah,
just
sure.
For Roshni. Yeah, the non-discrimination also, Roshni, would be because it is discriminatory. Number one,
Yeah, the
one is you want to
design,
you want to lower the a wash basin is one, but even the tap is not accessible to a person with disability, and you need to look at a more accessible tap, and maybe even where it is placed is not accessible to a person on a wheelchair. So we need to actually rethink many areas on that. Yeah.
Because right from our basics in architecture, we're taught to look at the human anthropometry for designing each of these service-based aspects. So maybe inclusion of these elements right from the basics in the architectural education might help us think in a better direction.
Right.
One of the very interesting things that you kept on saying while looking at this individual is that he might not be able to wash his hands, or he has no choice. And I'm wondering if we have introduced this person as a male. So this is another assumption that probably you'd had by looking at this person, that this person might be a male. And so this is one of the assumptions that we do for disability and also for gender that I wanted to bring up. Okay. Can we have the next person?
Yeah, she's there, Shini. Hi, yeah.
Okay. Can you look at this cartoon, and all of you who are looking at this cartoon, you can also type in the chat box. What is it that is happening here?
Okay, so here I think like we people are asking the challenged person to follow our opinions and not to listen their own. Like we are not giving a voice for them.
Okay. And where do you think this entire scenario is taking place?
Oh yeah, it's some federation of charities for the, like it is like the organization for the disabled people.
It is an organization for disabled.
Yeah, like the people who like say they have a voice for them, but they're not allowing to speak on their own, and they give them certain rules and regulations to follow.
Right. So now let us look at these principles and the same exercise. What do you think is being violated here?
Possibly everything is violated, like their opportunity is violated, discrimination is taking place, and no equality is given to them. And choices, and importantly, the choices are, we are not listening to their choices, and we are dictating them what they have to do. And possibly everything has been violated here.
And how do you think accessibility is being violated?
Like because this is the basic rule, right? Like this is where everything starts. So if we dictate them, like we are having certain regulations, and you have to follow us. Like it starts from the accessibility, right? We're not giving them the right choices or right way for them to access anything else.
Right. So one of the things that usually we look at when we look at accessibility, we always think about accessibility as a very physical in nature. So like the previous cartoon, the first thing that came to mind was accessibility is being violated. And then in this cartoon, accessibility is violated in the sense that you don't have access to express. You don't have access to talk and express your views out openly when the federation is for persons with disability. At the same time, it also talks about what is when after inclusion, real empowerment really begins. So there is an access to the federation. We can see that this person was able to probably come from the outside to the federation. So definitely there was some physical accessibility provision to come inside the federation. But then is there an access to actually voice out the opinion, and is empowerment really happening in the real sense, is what this cartoon also tries to talk about. So I would like to ask you one question, that is this situation familiar to you in the sense of architecture? Or is this situation familiar to anyone in the sense of architecture, the way we practice architecture?
There are many students here, so I'm sure it is familiar.
Right. So one of the things that Smita said, and we have been trying to push nothing about us without us, is what this cartoon also very boldly talks about. And then that a lot of times it happens then we do design with our assumptions, and we design with the precedents, but without actually looking at the real people.
So even Faisal says at workplaces, no consultation with end users.
Yes, yes, yes. So this is also what this cartoon tries to depict, that even doing that act of not consulting, we are trying to violate so many rights of persons with disability. Right. So yes, that was the end of our exercises.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roshni.
Roshni. Thank you.
Thank you, Shini. Thank you, Roshni. So like that, we had a lot of cartoons that kind of are real life scenarios that happen with people with disabilities on an everyday basis, but we selected two to make very important points over here. So we'd like to conclude this session, and the first session of designing for real people is what we were aiming for, and we introduce you to a variety of people with which I think you'd got an idea of how to understand people with disability. And I'd like to call Poonam again to close this session, and so that we can move to the next session of designing for real dimensions.
Yeah, I think this is over, na, Shivani?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I would very welcome any kinds of questions or any further discussions at a later stage. Sure. So I'll go ahead with the second session.
Right. So the first part of the session was about designing for real people, where we looked at the challenges. Now it's also very important for us to look at how do we really design now, since we have looked at so many barriers, we have looked at so many enablers. How do we put all this information together and look at design in a holistic way? So that brings us to the next session, which is designing for real dimensions. Just let me know when my screen is visible. Is my screen visible?
Yes, can see.
Okay. So I'd like to begin the session by quoting Deborah Rule, who is saying that it is important to understand that all of us are temporarily able-bodied individuals. So we might not have any kind of disabling condition at this point of time, but we may go through sensory, cognitive, or any body-related issues in various phases of life. And that is why, apart from all the other reasons that we have been talking about, which are important, that inclusive design and accessible practices are mandated by the law now. At the same time, it is the inherent right for people with disabilities to have accessible environments. At the same time, it is also access to information, infrastructure, and services has now become a basic human requirement to sustain life. And so we should look at this presentation. I would like to invite you to look at this presentation as not one of the ways to design, but it has to come as a second nature to all of us to design in a universal way. So I'd like to start with a case study. We had Hari Shankar, that was one of our speakers. We asked him several questions about his experiences in outdoor environments, and just a second. Yeah, about his experiences in outdoor environments. And we got to understand various barriers. Some of them you've already heard, but some barriers, how step by step, different design features create disabling environments is what Hari talks about in this particular case study. This case study would be very important for us to understand the real dimensions that we are going to talk about. Yeah. Is it visible? Is my screen visible?
Yeah, yes, it is. There's a black band on top, which you need to remove.
Okay.
Shivani, it will go away when you make your presentation.
Okay.
Accessible places, my experiences in outdoor places. There are lots I can do, there are some things I can't do. But most of all, I enjoy eating and being independent in mobility. I want to share with you one of my experiences in a restaurant I recently visited. This is not an exclusive experience. Some of the barriers that I will mention in the story are present in mostly all outdoor places that I have been to. Due to this, it becomes very challenging for me and my family to find safe and accessible places to visit. When I got a new job, I decided to celebrate by treating my family with my first salary. We went to a very famous place in Chennai for lunch. I had heard the food there is delicious and I was very excited to try it. It all started from the parkan, which did not have an accessible parking spot. We had to roam around till we found a spot that had sufficient space for my wheelchair and me to get down the car. But as a result, we had to walk a lot to reach the entrance. It was very tiring experience to begin with. As we got there, the first thing I saw was a flight of stairs to enter the restaurant. There was no ramp or lift. Without asking me, people around just lifted me up with the wheelchair and put me near the door. I felt very disrespected and scared about it and felt like I had no choice. Luckily, the door was wide enough for my wheelchair to pass and the doorknob was accessible. The signs leading to the seating place weren't legible and didn't have contrasting background. I had to go close to the signboard so that I can comfortably read. Inside the restaurant, the tables were set apart, which gave enough space for my wheelchair to pass. I felt very happy about it as I had the choice in selecting the table I liked. Otherwise, I usually have to take the first table next to the entrance as the interior spaces are not designed for flexibility in use. The table height was also appropriate, which enabled my full and effective participation with everyone. Then came the ordering process. The server handed me a menu card. I felt difficult to read the menu's typeface, text size and color. So I had to make someone read the menu for me. What I will order in the restaurant would be dependent on what my caregiver is comfortable in feeding me. Assisted feeding tends to prioritize in choosing the items from the menu. Once done, I wanted to use the restroom. Since the passage leading to the restroom and the door of the restroom was narrow, I had to return back without using it. Having the access to restroom is my inherent right and this was a violation to it. I felt agitated and helpless. I had to control myself till we reach. Due to this issue, some people even have to use adult diapers as well. Accessibility in a building for a wheelchair users does not just means having ramps. It means ensuring ease of mobility and comfort of usage at every step of navigating the building. It starts right from the parking to entrance till ensuring accessibility to each space. In cases where every space cannot be made accessible, at least there should be provision of an alternative option that feels dignified and comfortable to use. As a last word, all I want to say to you is, I don't expect the world to revolve around us. I will adapt. Just make it so I can adapt. Thank you.
Right. So in this case study, Hari took us to a step-by-step understanding of how different elements in the built environment creates a barrier and also becomes an enabler for him to participate full and effectively. He also used several words that we just learned about how these design decisions can affect a person's ability to make independent decision and choices. How does it reflect in their mental health by if they are able to have those choices. So all of these dimensions that we are going to talk about now, that why there was no accessible parking, what is an accessible parking like, how much should be a width of a door for someone like Hari to be able to go in the washroom, how much should be a corridor width be like, and all of these dimensions are right now followed. So there are various guidelines that we usually follow during architecture. I used to, in my school, look at NewFirths, and I think that is something that most of the architecture colleges look at NewFirths for designing. At the same time now, we have harmonized guidelines and space standards for universal accessibility in India. That is the latest one, 2021. This is very easily available. This guideline is a comprehensive manual which gives us an understanding of lots of factors in designing, such as external environments, internal environments for different building typology. How do we evaluate accessibility for buildings that are designed and after we are looking at the audit? So how do we look at the accessibility audit? So this presentation is based on the harmonized guidelines and space standards. So we're going to jump directly to how we really design it. So the first issue that Hari spoke about was accessible parking. Now he said that the parking was very far away, and according to the guidelines, the maximum that distance that you need to keep the parking away from the building has to be not more than 30 meters. And there should be an accessible route that connects the parking bay to the entrance, which should have at least a minimum width of 1200 mm. If your parking is far away from the build, it is important that directional signages are kept along the route to direct people to know where to turn and where to find the building. So this is an image of an accessible car parking bay towards your right that you can see. This is a car parking bay. It has a lateral transfer zone. So this hatched area, which is 1200 mm, it's a lateral transfer zone, which allows person or the wheelchair to be taken out of the car. This parking bay is about 5 meters by 3.6 meters in the dimension. It is also very important to have accessibility signage. So wheelchair signage that you can see over here, a signpost is very necessary so that it is identifiable from a distance, and to reserve the spot, because most of the times accessible parking spots are given, but people without knowing park cars over there. And so there is an international symbol of disability, which you see over here. This is a square box, which in blue color, that is a symbol which mostly is placed at the center of the parking bay. Accessible parking is also important for two-wheelers, adapted scooters, and tricycles. This is how it would look. The clear parking bay would be 3 meters by 2.4 meters. And the same principles of having a signboard and having international symbol of accessibility available over there. This would how a parking bay would look like. Then we talk about access routes. Now, access routes depend upon the width or the body dimensions that we have. So here there on the screen, you can see there are lots of people with different kinds of usage. There is a person using crutches, a person having a pram, a visually impaired person with a cane. There are two people traveling, one with a caregiver. So while we design these access routes, we must also understand who and in what way this particular route will be used. This is a standard dimension of a wheelchair that we must consider, which is 900 by 1200, and it also has a clear turning space of 1500. Now, why all of these dimensions become very crucial is that if we are designing, so the minimum width for one-way traffic is recommended to be 1200 mm. So when we make a design for 1200 mm, we are almost able to include various people on crutches or prams or people using a cane or also with assisted walking. At the same time, if we are looking to have two-way traffic or at exceptional cases, if we are looking to have, there are some obstacle on the road, such as a footpath, there is a tree, there is a manhole coming, then 1500 is what the prescribed width is. It's very important to also understand what Aziz said in the story, that access routes must really have handrails on both the sides. If one adjacent side is with the wall, then at least on one side it should have handrails, which acts as a support for elderly people and other individuals, but also it acts as a directional and navigational tool for people with visual impairment. If the walkway is covered, then it has to have a clear height of 2.2 meters. Smita said in her story that she needs to take continuous rest. And sometimes we see mostly in historical places where we have long walkways and we have unshaded, uncovered paths to reach to a building. And it is recommended in the guideline that street furnitures or some resting areas such as benches need to be provided at every 30 meters of length. Another important aspect of an access path, or you can here see in the left-hand image, a pedestrian path, is the presence of curb ramps. Now, curb ramps help us in changing the levels from any walkway or pathway to either the road or either the ground or any other build space. So on the left-hand side, you can see this is an image of a footpath in Chennai that we took, and the pathway is broken. There is no curb ramp. It is probably accessible for some able-bodied people who don't have much mobility issues, but at the same time you can see a wheelchair user. For them it's very difficult. For her it's very difficult now to go up on the safe pedestrian road, and she has to go on the road full, which is most of the times heavily it has heavy traffic on the road. So it's also safety is compromised if we don't have curb ramps. The right-hand side image shows of how a curb ramp would look like. So a curb ramp, there are various kinds of curb ramps that are possible depending upon what is the kind of pathway. But one thing that is very important to understand is the gradient of the ramp. So it shouldn't be steeper than 1:12. And like in this image, we can see there are two flared sides from which people can easily walk. So curb ramp does not disrupt any other pedestrian that are walking along. So that gradient has to be not more than 1:10. Otherwise, it becomes really difficult to walk. The width of the curb ramp should be either 900 mm or minimum 900 mm or should be equal to whatever is the pedestrian walkway. It should also have tactile flooring indicators for the visually impaired people to know from where the slope begins. And we'll learn about it in the later slides. Yeah. So you all must have observed these kinds of yellow tiles. Aziz spoke about in his presentation that tactile tiles are like his best friends, and he usually takes use of tactile tiles while navigating in the metro station. So this is a yellow colored tile, and there are two kinds of tactile tiles that are there. This one that you see, which has a round cross section, it is called a warning indicator. And this other one which you have in elongated strips, they are called guiding indicators. The tactile tiles come in a lot of different varieties in the market, but as architects, it's very important for us to know that the dimension has to be 300 by 300. Only then it is able to be, only then we are able to fit them in the pavement. At the same time, the height, the obtrusion that comes of the tactile tiles, that also has to be checked, because if it is more than what it is in the guidelines, it becomes an obstruction for people might topple over it. So selection of tactile tiles and having an understanding of tactile tiles is also very important with how should you lay the tactile tiles. Now the tactile tiles and warning blocks should always be placed 300 mm after the beginning and end of any ramp or stair or landing. So this is a plan of tactile tiles. Now if this is the door, the guiding tiles will help me to move forward. At this junction, I have a warning tile, which will indicate that there is a change of direction. The change of direction can help me with Aziz. He can do it with his foot. With someone with the cane can touch and see that where the direction change is happening. Usually this tile, the fourth tile, indicates the side where the direction change happens. And then like that, there are various junctions. You can always refer to the guidelines to see there are L junctions, T junctions, how at various junctions one can use the combination of warning tiles and guiding tiles. This was one of the cartoons that we wanted to use and for that exercise, but I took the opportunity to use it here. So the next feature that I want to talk about, ramp, you might be thinking ramp is something we all know how to design. Ramp has become synonymous to accessibility. Now, ramp, accessible places means having the provision of ramp, but ramp has been the most misunderstood design feature, most incorrectly built design feature that we have seen mostly all around the places that we have visited. And so it's very crucial for us to understand what are the things that we're doing wrong while we are building ramp. This is a cartoon from a polling station, and you can see that the polling station, I'm not sure if it is very clear, but the polling station says now fully accessible, because there is a staircase and there are some retrofittings to be done, which looks like a sliding place for a wheelchair. But in true sense, this kind of ramp and this kind of retrofitting is actually not accessible. It is so much unsafe, it is so much inaccessible. At the same time, we can see this person saying that that's the problem with you people. Even when we give you what you ask for, it's still not enough, or it's still not good enough. This is one of the challenges that I had also personally faced when I started working in this sector, that a lot of people either never wanted to put ramps because they thought we can always carry a person with disability if there are 3 to 4 steps. At the same time, some people had had made the ramps for the sake of it, but never understood that those ramps could never be usable. And so let us try to understand how will we, when we design ramps, what are the various important factors to look at. So this is an image of one of the sites in Delhi. This image talks about having no ramps at a public place. Also because the stakeholders, they thought that, okay, it's just a one step up, so we don't really need a ramp. But because of this, it caused huge problem, not just for the person with disability, but also the caregiver was very distressed because they had to lift the wheelchair and it was difficult. And also it's a power wheelchair. There's the second condition that we see everywhere that I was speaking about, that we have ramps, but we don't have ramps with proper slope. And a lot of people who know about slope would always say 1:12. 1:12 is an ideal slope, but it's not an ideal slope for all kinds of situations. So we have different horizontal runs that we want to build ramp for. And 1:12 might not be a good idea for those, because if you have 1:12 for a run which is really long, then a person might not be independently able to go on the ramp, although the ramp would be accessible if there is a caregiver who can push. So the slope of the ramp varies from 1:12 to 1:20, depending upon what is the horizontal run that we would like to cover. And the minimum width, like we had understood in the access routes, which was 1.2 meters, that goes for access route, that goes for the corridors, that goes for also the ramps. That is the minimum. Another thing that I have observed a lot that goes wrong while we are designing ramps, apart from the slope and the width, is the surface of the ramp. Most of the times people use these corrugated tiles on the ramp, thinking that it can add friction, but actually corrugated tiles are very difficult to move a wheelchair on. Wheeling is very difficult to do on a corrugated kind of a surface, and it is recommended in the guidelines that the surface of the ramp should be completely slip resistance. At the same time, it should avoid any form of corrugation. So, and also the surface accumulates water, which is also a hazard while using it. So that's another common issue that we see around the ramps. This is not very much spoken about when we look at ramps, and that is called edge protection. So one is the handrails. We are going to speak about handrails in detail, but at the same time, handrails are important for direction and support. But ramps also need edge protection, because due to the wheeling activity, either you are moving a stroller, or you're moving your groceries, or you're moving a person on the wheelchair. The forward wheels of the wheelchair might derail from the ramp, and there is a chance of hazard or accident. And so it's important that when we design ramp, we also look at edge protection, and that edge protection can be done either with a raised curb, or having a barrier, or with the horizontal bar of the handrail itself. This is one of the images of BRTS station in Ahmedabad, where a ramp, handrail, and tactile indicators with non-slip, non-corrugated surface could be seen. Now comes handrails. So we have seen in Aziz's presentation also, we saw lots of modern designs of handrails and different kinds of way of using the horizontal and vertical bars to make it look aesthetically very appealing. While aesthetics are a very important part of design, it also has to serve the function for which the particular design was being thought about. And handrails' first function is to provide support and direction. So one must also consider that whatever designs that we are doing for handrails, it should at least have these following features, such as one, the edge protection that you can see at the bottom over here. There is an edge protection. There is a top guard for the handrail, which is at around 900 mm. There has to be a second handrail, should be a double handrail, which should be around 600 to 750 from the ground. So that helps children or people with low stature or people on the wheelchair also to be able to make use of the handrail. At the same time, the handrail should be projecting 300 mm out from the start of the staircase, because usually people would grab that and then reach to the staircase. So it shouldn't start directly from the top of the staircase. So these are very important consideration for a handrail. Another very important but mostly overlooked consideration for handrail is the cross section. So we have different kinds of cross section that are available in the market: square, rectangle, and many other forms. But it's important from a user experience and usability perspective, we look at that handrails, we're going to grab it from the hand, and this is the profile that we are going to use. So it should be of a particular, it should have a tabular shape. Especially for public buildings, it's very important that the handrails have tabular shape. At the same time, the cross-sectional profile of the handrail is also very important. It should be in between 80 to 50 mm. It shouldn't be more than that. Sometimes I've seen big handrails. It's very difficult to even grasp them. You can only touch them and move, but you can't hold them and take support. So these are very minute details, but they affect a lot in the way we use the build spaces and feel safe and comfortable. This is one of the one drawing to understand how would the handrail look, and this warning surface style should start 300 mm from here. Yeah. Now let's come to the next part of it, which were doors. The doors were narrow, because of which Hari couldn't go to the bathroom. And what is the real obstacle that comes is that you can see it in this image. One, the door is narrow, the wheelchair is not able to go inside. The wheelchair dimensions doesn't support the dimensions that we generally use, which is 600 to 750 minimum door is what we generally tend to use in mostly the designs that we do. But it should at least be minimum of 900 so that not just a wheelchair, but people with different kinds of diverse shapes, body shapes can also make use of it comfortably. People carrying a child can also make use of it comfortably. People having bags and other things also can enter inside comfortably. So 900 should be the clear width, and one has to also look at the height at which we'll place the door handle. The door handle should be at the wheelchair height. So that when we say the wheelchair height, we are not saying that we are only looking at design from the perspective of a wheelchair user, but we are looking at wheelchair height because that is the height from where a lot of people can comfortably use it. Now, this is a very interesting aspect of the build space, which are windows. And we as architects like to experiment a lot with how the way the light comes in the building. While windows are a source of light and ventilation, windows are also a means to windows are also means to enjoy views, and also means to have a gathering and a social interaction. So in this image on the right, you see that there are two people, one on the wheelchair, one person with a slightly smaller stature. They're both talking around an open window, and they're talking about something. But what really happens when we design a window in a way that the views are able to enjoy it by everyone? So this is the difference. This is a window where the way both of them are sitting, you can visibly see the posture. The posture completely changes here. Person sits very comfortably. They're able to be more open about their ideas and views. They're more happy in that kind of a setting. And you can sit for longer times while you talk if you're comfortable. So it is also very important consideration. And although there are lots of things to cover in internal environments and external environments, bathrooms, washrooms have been one of the most important and also not available in the build space. So generally also washrooms, clean and hygienic washrooms are not available, but at the same time having the availability of accessible bathrooms or washrooms also is a very difficult thing that to see. And what is very important to see in an accessible toilet, there are only 4 to 5 things that we must consider while we look at the idea of an accessible washroom. One is definitely the door. So, one is definitely the door. So while you look at if a person is from the outside, they're trying to open the door, it might be difficult for them to open the door completely. And so it's important that either we have sliding doors to the washroom or we have a double swing door. We also need to look at electrical controls, which must be not for washrooms, but for every place has to be reachable from a wheelchair height. There should be an emergency button inside an accessible washroom, just in case to report any accidents. And most importantly, there should be provision of grab bars that can help person to transfer from the wheelchair to the toilet seat. A very interesting case study we want to quickly share. So till now, we have only been talking about male and female washrooms, and now we are also talking about accessible washrooms. But then there is one entire issue that was faced by Bhavana, and there's a case study that she'd like to share her experience of how, apart from male, female, and accessible washrooms, what is the other thing that one must look at?
Accessible travel, thinking beyond ramps and wheelchairs. I love to travel abroad. There are a lot of things we need to plan before making a trip. It's not about wheelchairs and ramps, it's airport toilets. At home, the bathroom and bedroom are designed in a manner that I can manage with one helping hand. But while traveling, I will definitely need 2 people to help, and that would be my parents. This means I need to use gender-neutral or family washrooms in the airports. So, I started researching airport terminals. It took days before I found Dubai has an exclusive lounge for people with disabilities and a family washroom. Then, it came to the flights which will give a layover in Dubai. Again researched and listed out the airlines and figured out the airline which has a Dubai layover. Then came the bigger task. I can use only my custom.
Right. So, one of the things that was seen in this particular video was the concept of having family toilets or toilets which are gender neutral. One of the things that we wanted to include in our first session was the perspective of a caregiver. So when we look at diversity and we look at one diversity, which is people with disabilities, we also must look at caregivers, people who assist people with disabilities in doing activities of daily living like toileting, eating, and other things. At the same time, you're not even just looking at the concept of family toilet is not just for a person with disability or and their caregiver, but a lot of times women with small children also face the same problem, that or fathers with daughters face the same problem, that where should they be going if they are traveling. So the way we look at designing of toilets should also be mindful of the gender. Accessible toilets can also become family toilets or gender neutral toilets. So that is another important consideration and a start of a topic that we haven't really considered or started looking at. Now comes one aspect that we haven't really spoken anywhere, and it's not so much also in the guidelines, which is about what do we do. So these were all the things that we've looked at. There are so many other things that you can always refer to the guidelines, but in the interest of time, I'd also want to include a perspective of what can be done for people with neurodiversity. When I say neurodiversity, I'm saying people with autism, ADHD, or on the spectrum of neurodiversity, people with intellectual disability. When they're able to access places and they don't have any mobility issues, how do we look at the challenges that they face, such as anxiety, such as sensory processing difficulties? What could be done in terms of accessibility for them? So this is an image of a sensory room that we just curated in the NASSCOM Global Inclusion Summit in Bangalore. The sensory and calming rooms have an idea that it has a place with various tools and objects that help you relax and also help you reintegrate with your senses. Also has a space to restore the attention. You can see the various elements that are on the table, around the window, and also various other types of seating and furnitures that are there. So another important aspect of sensory room is that it should definitely have an interaction area which can stimulate different kinds of multisensorial experience, such as touch, senses of smell, senses of hearing, senses of eating. So we had a whole counter for gustatory stimulations also. So that is very important, that we multisensorily also look at these experiences. At the same time, we individually look at these experiences in a sensory room. Also very important to have resting areas. We have lots of waiting lounges in airport and other places. We also need to have resting places available at many other public places apart from airport. And resting places can be of various types. It could be a place where you can lie down, like people who resonate to the issues with Smita, who really need to lie down after some particular duration of activity. Or then you can see on the right hand side, people just want to relax for some time and then move away. So this kind of provision can also happen in a way of a street furniture or fixed benches, but then they are out there in an environment which might be sensory overstimulating for people. So Aditya said that sometimes a lot of people and crowd makes him feel overwhelmed and he feels very anxious about. And at that point, it's difficult to understand where to go, who to reach out to. So having a provision of a calming room or a sensory room, which dedicatedly provides a space to rest, relax, interact, or look at nature is very important. So with that, I'd like to conclude this session. It might be a little fast paced to look at these designs and the dimensions, but you can always refer to the harmonized guidelines. I'd like to say that universal design has lots of principles. We have 7 principles of universal design. We have 8 goals of universal design. And they are flexibility, equitable use, perceptible information, simple and intuitive use. But how do we look at these principles in design? And so concluding, we would like to share one of the projects that we did at the early stage of Tara. It was a kitchen design project, and it uses most of these principles, universal design principles, especially flexibility, equitable use, and simple and intuitive use. Before I just play the last part of this presentation, the last video, I'd like to just pause and see if we are going okay with it. If there are any doubts that needs that has to be addressed at this point, or are we good to go with the last video?
Shivani, I've posted in the chat box that whatever doubts or queries they have, team at Ethos will compile them as FAQs and we'll share them with you because of paucity of time and we need to move for the faculty development program.
Okay, great. All right. So this is the last movie, and this last movie talks about a project that we implemented. It also talks about how can universally designed spaces impact people's life. So we've been talking a lot about universal design is the answer. This is the entire program about this. And what is the answer that it really gives is what you will find from this movie.
Action, dining and lounge, created with love and care to make lives easier. A dream project by Tara Bliss. The kitchen cum dining area caters to around 20 residents, which includes both people with disabilities and non-disabled. The residents in Vidyasagar felt that the kitchen was not accessible for wheelchair users, which paved the way to the need for creating an enabling environment which meets the objectives of an inclusive space. Features of the accessible space. The whole area was converted to be more spacious with minimum moving furniture. The kitchen area was broken down into 2 zones, one for the main cooking and another where the residents can cook. A gallery type open kitchen layout was adopted for additional functionality. The main kitchen is designed with 3 distinctive zones for cooking, prep work and washing, thereby ensuring a clutter-free maintenance on a longer run. Separate space for tea making is included to avoid hindrance to the main cooking during the working hours. The open kitchen includes an island space which connects to the dining. Accessible pantry. The accessible pantry is a universally designed L-shaped kitchen which has proven to be the most accessible one as it supports sliding factor, that is, the ability to move cooking vessels. The electrical points were made sure to be reachable by wheelchair users. The space under the kitchen counters have been kept cabinet free. To compensate the storage spaces, a ceiling height cabinet was made with pull-out vegetable baskets at accessible height. Another cupboard with a sliding board was made with organizers for the storage that have been carefully chosen so that keeping and retrieving the vessels and items is easy and accessible. We have also personalized a movable kitchen counter suiting an individual's need to show that either universal design or customized models are possible. To self-serve food, a low table has been designed with accessories that will help in keeping it and serving it warm. To address the need of wheelchair users to wash their own plates, an open cabinet with plate and bowl rack is created and has been suitably placed next to the sink. The kitchen earlier was a very small, congested place. Now it has been designed to be flexible to even host social gatherings and parties. The area will also be used for the students of the day center for cooking classes once the pandemic is over. Sharing the highlights from the modification process.
Yeah, with this video, we would like to conclude that there's one question in the chat box: what is the ideal slope of a ramp? I just can't help but answer it. The ideal slope of ramp is in between 1:12 to 1:20, 1:12 to 1:20, yes. So yeah, coming back to, with this, we would like to conclude the session, and we would like to re-emphasize the fact that it's not difficult to understand and to look at universal design. It is not, a lot of times people say accessibility is expensive. Accessibility is also not expensive if we think about accessibility while we start the process of designing. And so I'd like to call Poonam to say the closing words. And yeah, I hope this session has been impactful, and hope this session, in the journey of an architect's life, or if you are a faculty in the life of a person who's going to educate so many people, this has been a very empowering session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shivani. Yeah, I hope it's been useful for all of you. We have some comments which say it's been useful. And I think it's just the beginning of your understanding. The disability is part of human diversity. And that's what we all always want to celebrate. Not the diversity. We all don't want to be one type. We all are, each individual brings with it so many different joys and experiences, and also certain very, very individual support needs. So I think to celebrate diversity and celebrate disability, you all should go on this journey of understanding disability more, talking to the stakeholders, and designing with all people in mind. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Poonam. Thanks, Shivani. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was such an eye-opener for us. I'm sure that there are many questions, and just due to paucity of time, we'll take those and compile as FAQs soon. Today, Poonam and Shivani not only shared their wisdom and expertise, but they also brought 6 extraordinary individuals who graciously narrated their stories to us and demonstrated through their experience. Towards the end, we also saw Tara's own explorations with Universal Design and Act, and that is how you learn through demonstrations. They reminded us that disability is not personal, it's not individual, it's really environmental. And in this session, we've learned that designing for people with disabilities is not just about making physical adjustments. It's about understanding their needs, their aspirations, and their true essence. It's about us as architects creating an environment that embraces diversity, inclusivity through empathy. Thank you for reminding us that disability is not a barrier, but it's also an invitation for us as architects to think differently, to embrace change, and to create a world where everyone can thrive. And thank you to our incredible guests for sharing their stories, their laughter, and their indomitable spirit, as well as their displeasure and concerns. We promise to make the world more inclusive through our designs. And this is the focus of Project Udita. I hope that all of us, rise to this occasion. We request everyone to also follow Walk for Our Cause on social media to stay updated about our programs and join the mission. As we step out in the world, let us carry the torch of compassion and inclusion and see the change. We be the change we wish to see. I humbly thank Poonam Natarajan, Shivani Shah, Azish Rehman, Ravi Shankar, Aditya Ramesh, Bhavana Botha, Hari Shankar, Smita Sadashivan for sharing with us the heart of universal design. Thank you, Saurav and Sarah, for the sign language interpretation. And on behalf of us, I thank Sarojini for joining us today and Emphasis for supporting Project Udita. We thank the Council of Architecture and the Indian Institute of Architects and Ethos Foundation to join hands as knowledge partners. We appreciate the support offered by Vidyasagar, Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Architecture, Pune, and SPA Bhopal for joining us as advisors. I would also like to thank the colleges and offices for broadcasting this at your auditorium and joining us as institutional partners. It's a long list, but I think it's important to acknowledge everyone who took time out today. Ayojan School of Architecture, Pune, Academy of Architecture, Pune, Andhra University, Visakhapatnam, BMS School of Architecture, Bangalore, BMS School of Architecture, Yelahanka, Dayanand Sagar College of Architecture, Geetam School of Architecture, Visakhapatnam, IPS Academy School of Architecture, Indore, Mohammad Sadak AJ Academy of Architecture, Chennai, Pillu Modi College of Architecture, Cuttack, PSG Institute of Architecture and Planning, Coimbatore, SAL School of Architecture, Ahmedabad, School of Planning and Architecture and Design Excellence, Hindustan Institute of Technology and Science, Chennai, SMEF's Brick School of Architecture, Pune, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel Institute of Technology, Vasad, School of Architecture, Vellore Institute of Technology in Vellore, Siddhaganga School of Architecture at Tumkuru, Sri Sri University at Cuttack, and those where students joined us in large numbers in bulk, although they couldn't broadcast it directly from their auditoriums. This was with Ajinkya D.Y. Patil School of Architecture, Bharati Vidyapeeth College of Architecture, Pune, Chandigarh University Institute of Architecture, Chandigarh, School of Architecture, Reva University, Bangalore. We take your leave now. And we break because this is the first in the inaugural session of faculty development program that was open to all as Sense and Sensibility lecture series. After a 5-minute break, the faculty members of the FDP program will receive another link to join in, and our next speaker, Niju Dubey, will be ready for us. So thanks a lot. May we continue to learn, grow, and build a brighter future together.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sonam. Thank you, Poonam. Thanks, Shivani.
Thanks.
God bless.
Thanks. It was a real pleasure. Thank you.